Hello, everybody. I'm just sorting out the tech. Been on my own today. Let's have a little look. I will firstly check if we're live. Let's have a little look. I'll bring up the chat. If anyone is joining, then great stuff. And then I'll go live on Instagram, just so we're all good. Perfect. Here we go. Right. So hopefully we're all good. Let's doubly check that we're live on Facebook, which I do this every time, even though me and Dave have been doing this for far too long. Let's check. If you have joined us, by the way, do drop in the comments, just so I know I'm not alone today, which would be great. I can see some people joining, which is awesome, and on Instagram as well, which is super cool. But who's going to be the first? I think we got Will, we got Andrew, Anna, Victor as well. And who's on Facebook then? Please drop in the comments if you are on Facebook. Always good to see who is here. And also as well, just let me know about the audio, guys, because I want to just make sure that the audio is coming through okay. You're not going crazy. There are other... Cheers, Ryan. Thank you very much. And we got Simon on YouTube as well, which is great stuff. Well, look, I'm going to go straight into it. So, yeah, Dave is he's in the Khumbu region, he's in the Everest region today. He is trekking with our last group to Everest Base Camp, which is awesome. The weather looks fantastic, and he's very happy. He sent me a bunch of pictures, and he sent the team a bunch of pictures earlier today. So, yeah, definitely keep on socials because he's going to be doing some daily videos for us in the build up to next week. Which is cool. Hey, Rich, how you doing? Audio all good. Thank you very much, guys. My laptop has kicked off a couple of times with it. It gets noisy. There's a fan, so if it does, let me know because I've got the mic here. But I'm from my home office, if you like. So this is where I work from home. It's called the Drunken Yak. So off the back of certain trips in Nepal. Yeah, it's something I built basically during COVID, and this is where I work from home. So now you can all see. So we're not in the office today, but I wanted to come and do this anyway because even though Dave's not away, and sometimes we don't do Tuesday tune-ins if Dave is away or I'm away or you're both doing other stuff. I just wanted to kind of, even if it's a slightly shorter live, just give a little bit of airtime to Machu Picchu because this week, as part of Black Friday week, is all about Machu Picchu for us. We do have a live training webinar tonight, which is the couch to Machu Picchu. We do have I think about 20 seats left. So if anyone does fancy that, I will chuck it in the comments and you can sign up to that. But we'll come on to that in a sec because obviously you've joined me, given us your time, and I do want to talk about Machu Picchu. Because I've been there a couple of times now. I've been very lucky to kind of go there a couple of times, and it is interesting because chatting to hey Bri, how you doing? Afternoon, Solo Yeti. Yeah, definitely, mate. On my lonesome today, but it's all good. I've done some on my own before, so it's all good. Anuj, here we go. He's on Instagram. Great stuff. Good to see some familiar faces. Anyone who's new joining as well, just drop in the comments. Always good to see who's here. Dave's Namchi Bazai posted on Instagram. Yeah. Well, luckily, Andrew, I'm the one doing the posting, but he does send me the information. But yeah, it's good that he's. I'm chucking up his reels on there because I was like, Dave, we're gonna need some day-by-day stuff. So he's been brilliant. Mick Hamilton, how you doing? Long time. All right, me old China. Love it, Phil. Great stuff. We've got some Evertrek legends on today, which is fantastic. Yeah, just swinging back to Machu Picchu. So as I said, I do want to give it some airtime because this is the third week of November, and this week is all about Machu Picchu. So, for instance, anyone that hasn't booked Machu Picchu but will do, there are some bonuses this week as part of Black Friday. So, anyone that books Machu Picchu, you get £200 off this week, and you also get a free Rainbow Mountain trip. So, that's what you get if anyone books Machu Picchu this week. But anyway, Machu Picchu is, compared to, say, Everest Base Camp, Kilimanjaro. I know some people on here have done those trips. It is definitely a different flavor. To anyone that's been kind of backpacking or maybe traveling when they were younger, it's certainly closer, I would say, to that than say the other two trips I mentioned. And it's certainly for me, when I've been there, there's always that element, because it's like normally with Everest Base Camp, you've got an A and you've got, you know, a B, you've got the end, and you kind of start there, and then you trek for 11, 12 days, and then you finish there. Whereas Machu Picchu is a small part of a bigger trip, certainly in our case anyway. And I know we do a couple of different routes to Machu Picchu. One of them being Tomacare, which is our I'd say our favorite. It's one that we're one of the only companies in the world to actually do that route, and obviously the ever popular Inca Trail. And actually, yeah, we do get more people on the remote route, which is the Tomacare, compared to the Inca Trail. Not that obviously the Inca Trail is very popular in its own right, but just talking about Evertrekkers now. And yeah, I do think that because the journey on the Tomacare route is a different flavor, is a different journey compared to the Inca Trail. You don't really see many people. It is more remote. It's definitely something that, having done the Tomacare route a couple of times, I not that I wouldn't want to do the other routes, which I've done parts of the Inca Trail anyway. Is that I really enjoy the remoteness of it. It's certainly, you know, you're in the Andes, you're in a remote part of the world, and it's kind of nice in a way, I think, to experience that. And but don't get me wrong, there's something really cool about kind of visiting and trekking and walking on places that, you know, Incans used to use, which is fascinating in its own right. And that to me gives it its own thing, which is very different to, say, Kilimanjaro or Everest Base Camp. And I'm not saying there's no legends, or there's plenty of legends that have walked those trails, but it's a different type of thing. It is more history. It is certainly, you know, it adds something to it, I think. And we were there in September, and I know we did a little bit of a live just after, but I wanted to kind of swing back to it because I know I didn't see many people on that live. But certainly for me, Machu Picchu is more of an adventure, I would say, than the others, in terms of, you've got Machu Picchu, so you've got the trekking part, then you've got Machu Picchu itself, which is, you know, you don't have to trek to get to Machu Picchu. You get a lot of people actually that do it on a bus. I'm not saying that's the best way, but you know, they just do it on a bus. There's no trekking at all, but you know, they're still seeing Machu Picchu. Um, but the little villages, the little towns that you travel in, like Olete Tambo, Aguas Calientes, Cusco, which is an amazing place, because actually on our trips you spend kind of 3 or 4 days in Cusco. And we also go to a little place as well called Hucha Cusco, which is Little Cusco in Quechua. And that is also fascinating little place. So you've got all these little bits as well, and obviously we'll come on to the add-ons in a bit, but you have got other areas of Peru as well that people visit as part of, you know, going to trek to Machu Picchu. So places like, you know, someone who wants to do Rainbow Mountain, for example, which you can do it in a day. If you do Rainbow Mountain as well, definitely don't do it before your trek. It's having done it literally a couple of days within arriving in Peru, and obviously not pre-acclimatized, so you're acclimatized when you're there. And we get there, you go to over 5,000 meters within 48 hours of being, you know, from sea level. So yeah, I wouldn't recommend that. Not that it's impossible, but we all felt quite rubbish coming down. Definitely do it after. I highly recommend that. It's definitely better and more enjoyable as well. So do it after. But yeah, so you've got Rainbow Mountain. You've also got obviously you've got Lake Titicaca as well, which is the world's highest navigable lake. We get a lot of Evertrekkers going there, and then kind of brand new, really. We have been doing them. We've launched recently, I think about 2 weeks ago, the Amazon add-on. So it's a 4-day, 3-night trip that we do to a little place called Puerto Maldonado, and that is really interesting place. I went down there, and it's quite cool because you arrive, you take a boat upriver to one of the kind of tributaries of the Amazon, and into the rainforest, and then you've got kind of this lodge accommodation which is literally in the forest, which is amazing. And the sounds and I've never heard sounds quite like that, you know. And I've trekked in some remote parts of the world, but the Amazon certainly, you know, it's certainly kind of, it's like an overdose of the senses. It's mad. It's amazing, especially when it comes to kind of sunrise or sunset. It's absolutely fantastic. So yeah, the Amazon is certainly something I'd recommend for anyone going down to do Machu Picchu, whether you've been there before, you know, sorry, whether you've been to Machu Picchu before or not. Highly recommend the Amazon, especially if you're booked on. Just add it on. And obviously, if you're going to book on, I'd recommend adding the Amazon on as well. And there's always these questions though around, like for instance, one thing we're talking about tonight is about training for Machu Picchu, and we've had questions before like, do I need to train for Machu Picchu like I did for Everest or Kili? Is it that kind of difficult? And to answer that question, I suppose is one, anytime you go into altitude, typical winter, isn't it? Loving the cold, fresh mornings as well here in the UK. Hopefully, we got some snow in the north. That'll be fantastic, wasn't it? Get out in the mountains. Yeah, where was I? Yeah, fitness on Machu Picchu, and is it similar to Kili or EBC? So I'd approach it the same way in terms of getting out, pack on your back, definitely put in the miles in, because you're still trekking, above 4,000 meters, especially if you're doing Tomokaea, you're trekking to about 4,900 meters. And just from experience, having been over Tokto Pass, it's not easy. There's a couple of kind of false summits to the pass. So you get there, you're like, yeah, and you're like, oh, we're going over there. And then you get to the next one, and you're like, yeah, and you're like, nope, still got a couple of 100 meters left of ascent. But then once you get to the top of Tokto Pass, and it's amazing. You've got Mount Salcante there, which is a 6,000 meter peak, snow-capped peak, which is stunning. And you literally feel like you're right next to it. It's worth it, even though it's difficult. So obviously you go into almost 5,000 meters. So I think you need to approach it the same way. Now, the same as if you're doing the Inca Trail as well. You go into 4,215 meters on Dead Woman's Pass, which is, is still significant. And anyone, I know, Bry, Mick, Phil, Rich, a lot of guys who have trekked with us over the years, anytime you're trekking above 3,000 meters, it's hard work, especially if you've just turned up and you're just hiking. So for me, to answer that question, I would kind of approach it the same way in terms of, definitely putting the reps in, definitely getting your legs, your legs worked, definitely going on steep hills and getting out there. And I suppose just psychologically as well, just approach it with the same diligence, if you like, of putting the same effort that you would in going to Everest Base Camp and Kili. But that being said, after you do the trekking bit, the rest of it's quite nice. And I think we put an email out earlier, and one thing I wanted to kind of go into, certainly when we're talking about all these, is like for me, I've always loved the epic stuff. I can't get around the fact that was one thing that drew me to want to go to Everest Base Camp years ago, before I set up the company. And certainly for me, it was, I wanted to kind of feel that difficulty level. I didn't want it to be easy, and I know there's a couple of ex-military in the chat as well who, being in the military and all the training involved with that is not easy, and they're suffering. And but I kind of think that prepares you and gets you ready and almost excited sometimes when you've got to face difficult conditions. Like Mick and Bri, I know when we first met back in 2019 on a training weekend in Brecon Beacons, I certainly, that weekend was character building with the wind and the weather and everything. But I know you can always tell with the characters who enjoy it, because you can tell the smile on their face, and even when you're looking around, you can see a little grin. Even Mick, I think you were doing air guitar on the top of the mountain in the rain, and it was like 40 miles an hour winds. So, but I connect with that, because ultimately, when you're trekking in those kind of conditions, it kind of, it sorts you out, doesn't it? It freshens you up, blows the cobwebs away, gets you excited. Certainly for me, that's what gets me out, and something that I loved, which is why I wanted to go to Everest Base Camp. And that's what I meant around, even though I crave kind of the epic stuff, whenever I chat to people who go to Machu Picchu, even though they've done all the others, they still say the Machu Picchu is kind of up there. It's still like one of, even if it's, okay, sometimes maybe not number one, but number two, it's still like one of their most popular trips. And it's interesting, isn't it? I was chatting to a couple of friends in Peru, actually. Hey, Jim, how you doing? Just watched Dave at Namche. Yeah, exactly. We chucked it on Insta. He's sending it all over to us so we can post. But now, great stuff. Yeah, if you see more of Dave this week, definitely. But yeah, going back to it, I was chatting to a guy called Max, who's done Everest Base Camp with us. He's done Tubcal, he's done a bunch of trips. Spud, who's done that, and also Kili as well. And it's interesting because after it, I asked the guys, like, we sat down over a beer, and I was like, what do you, honest opinions now, what do you think of, what do you think of the trip? And yeah, it was really interesting. They were like, actually, it was one of their probably most famous. It was their favorite times, favorite experiences. I think because it was so different. Because I think they enjoy the suffering as well, but they also like it. I think we all like a little bit of a relax at times. And certainly after the trekking was done, and then we were in Ollantaytambo, we were in Machu Picchu, in Cusco, in the Amazon, just experiencing travel for what it is, which is the journey. I think they kind of really enjoyed that, and I think it's nice to have a mix. And it got me thinking, which is why I wanted to just to kind of bring it to the conversation today while it's just me, just because it was on my mind and I was thinking about it. And I know, I'm interested to think about what you guys think as well, and around. Do you crave the challenge as such, or do you probably prefer more of the traveling side of it, or the journey? I'm interested to get your thoughts, because um, obviously it's always weird chatting to a screen, but I can see some comments. Be interested just to, especially on Instagram as well. I know there's some people on there tuning in. The whole Paratrooper podcast. Pleasure to join you. Great to see you. Lots of people messaging great stuff. No, it's interesting just to see where other people are at. And I know some of this is kind of deep stuff around why we do these things, and and that kind of stuff. But it is one of those hidden things, I think. And certainly for me, I've done Everest Base Camp, for instance, 5 times. I've done Machu Picchu twice, so obviously not as much time spent there. But certainly for me, Peru has a certain allure to it. Certainly from other reasons away from the trekking. The food, for instance. I've never been to a place that has surprised me so much with food. It's amazing. Like, obviously, you're burning loads of calories, aren't you? Your altitude, you're trekking, so you're like, I can eat whatever I want, which is awesome. But it's fascinating. I remember leaving it, and I was like, every place you go to, whether it's just a mainstream place, or whether it's an independent little cafe or restaurant, every place has super high standards with food and the presentation. And even the little local place down the side street, the Andrew Rooks challenge all the way. There we go, Andrew. Exactly. Phil, more about the adventure, but do love a challenge. Great stuff, guys. Good to hear your thoughts. Yeah, it's so the standards are super high with food. I honestly wish certain places in the UK could be like that, because especially I love, obviously I'm from Cardiff, I'm from South Wales, and sometimes these little restaurants I go to around South Wales, it can be questionable. I'm like, guys, come on, let's set the bar high. As that CJ Adams, I found we was overfed on the Inca trek. The food was fantastic. Yeah, it certainly are. But I don't know if you found it as well, CJ, around, especially when you're camping, is that the quality of food surprised me on the trek, even in the remote areas. And I know you were on the Inca Trail, but which isn't as remote, but still, it's not. You're not in the city. You're still remote. Isn't it amazing how like the level of quality of food is fantastic in camp? I was blown away by that on both times. I know certainly on the last trip when I was in, we were checking in with some of the other group, and I could see, there's a bottle of wine on the table. Okay, this was on day 2 or 3, so they'd done the highest bit. It was on the way down, so celebrate. Why not? I think it was someone's birthday, but I know the food, like the starters. I remember we had one of the starters was like an upturned avocado with some lovely kind of vegetables in there, and salad. It was just stunning. You kind of it was typical. Last night we were chatting with Jen, my wife, and we were chatting about dinner, and we were going through everything we needed, and it was like, even though you got all the comforts at home, we were like kind of struggling to make something. And it's interesting, you're in the middle of nowhere, and something so simple could be so amazing. Yeah, definitely puts it into perspective. And you can generally find something at home, right? If you've got all the ingredients there, you like use a little bit of imagination, you can come up with something. CJ, there we go. Exactly, we connect on that. The standard was amazing. It was better than my effort at home. Exactly. I feel the same with that. It's really interesting, isn't it? And it's also interesting as well, because just got some kind of notes and some questions which Again, we'll talk about this evening as well on the Couch to Machu Picchu live trainer session. Is it about the solo stuff or doing it as a group? Now, a lot of Jim, I know you went with your partner, Phil, I think similar. I know with kind of Mick, Bry, I know a lot of people do the trek solo. But actually, it's interesting. We do get a lot of people. I see emails to the customer team and people asking, because it's a group tour, oh, can I do it? Because, I'm on my own. And I suppose just to kind of reiterate that, yeah, like our trips are open and for all people, in terms of, whether you're on your own, whether you're part of a group, whether you're a couple, I think that's part of the enjoyment of these trips, is that the people you meet. I certainly, for me, it's been one of my favorite parts of the Evertrekker community, is seeing and meeting other people. I think it's definitely big part of it. Obviously, the traveling and the adventure and the challenge, like the guys are saying, I do love that. But I kind of definitely feel that the friends you meet and the group dynamics for me is fantastic. And it's the same on Machu Picchu. I know that on Everest Base Camp and Kili, you've got a big goal to get to, which is probably more like the high point. And obviously Kili, it's the summit. Whereas Machu Picchu itself, on the Machu Picchu trek, isn't the highest spot. It's quite low altitude. It's only like 2,000 meters. Whereas there's other parts of the trip that are the high point, where you kind of celebrate. Like we celebrated when we got to Rainbow Mountain because it was above 5,000 meters. We celebrated when you get to Tokto Pass because it's the high point of the trek, 4,900 meters. Same on the Inca trek, CJ. I bet when you got to the top of Dead Woman's Pass, there's like the high point of the trek. There's that little bit of celebration. I think as human beings, we certainly celebrate, don't we, when we've got those high points. But isn't it interesting that that's, say you're going to Machu Picchu, it's in your mind, you go into Machu Picchu. That's the kind of the draw for going to that place. But actually, all the rest of it sometimes can be more enjoyable, I think. Like I love getting to Machu Picchu. It's amazing. Getting there and realizing, the history behind it. Certainly for me, it was like a big tick off the bucket list. But actually, obviously depending on which route you come, you're only there for a few hours. Whereas you're in South America for a couple of weeks, and the rest of the adventure, the rest of the trekking is probably for me like that sticks with me more, I think. And that's not saying the Machu Picchu isn't amazing. It's the same as when you get to like Kilimanjaro. You're only on the summit for an hour, if that. You're only at Everest Base Camp for an hour, maybe even two. If you're lucky, depending on the weather and your group. So it's fascinating, isn't it? Whereas actually the majority of the stuff that happens and the times you enjoy, because it isn't just about the kind of the old cliche about that destination, about that X on a map, about that summit. It is actually about that big journey. Certainly when you've got more thinking time, when you see the villages you're trekking through, when you have a laugh with the group, for me that certainly is a big part of why we kind of enjoy it as such. And another kind of question for me, certainly we had a lot of people who recently kind of emailed, for example, and were asking about next year, especially for Machu Picchu and best time to go, how early do I need a book for permits, that kind of stuff. And I suppose, yeah, if you are thinking of trekking to Machu Picchu, earlier the better with permits, because the one thing I kind of learned, and hey, that in Peru, it's got a very nuanced political environment, if I could put it that way. It can be quite volatile. But one thing they have been good at, and I can't, it's amazing. I think other countries could learn about this, certainly, is they're big on sustainable travel. And part of that has meant it's a bit more difficult for us as people going over there, as travelers, as visitors, and companies certainly run trips there, is that there is limits on the amount of people that can go to Machu Picchu per day. So for instance, on the Inca Trail, for example, there's only 500 permits allowed per day. for each day, and actually 300 of those 500 are for locals and for porters and guides. So there's only 200 people allowed per day on the Inca Trail, which is really interesting, and that's really good because it kind of, one, I think it makes it a bit more nicer, so there's not thousands of people there, and but I think it does reduce the impact of going there. And look, even though for us that obviously we're running trips there, which is amazing, and I love that we obviously run trips there. The fact is, though, we all leave an impact in some way. But if we can reduce that and control that and manage that, then that's, I think, is a really positive thing. Certainly for us, there's always that kind of dichotomy, we can call it, of okay, we love going out there, but you're having an impact. So you're kind of trying to you're trying to balance that as best you can, because it's an amazing place to go visit, like it is. Like with Dave and the group in Nepal now, on our last group going to EBC, having an amazing time. Like, I look at the weather, and having trekked to EBC in November, it's actually, I'd say, one of the best times to trek to EBC because of the weather and all that. It's quieter. Looking at some of the conditions, it looks fantastic. Colder, of course. But yeah, again, obviously the guys will want to minimize their impact. And I know, I think tomorrow they're going to go to Sagarmatha next, which is on the acclimatization day. So that'd be really cool. Looking forward to seeing that. But yeah, going back to Machu Picchu, the same with Machu Picchu. Even though you love going there, you kind of want to not want to impact it in a negative way. So I think, yeah, going back to those permit things, I think definitely a good thing. But it does mean that anyone that wants to go there, you need to get it in soon. So if you're booking for, say, next summer, you want to make sure you're booking in now, because if you book it last minute, like for instance, we had a guy we wanted to bring actually to do some filming for us. Actually, we tried to get him a last minute permit, even though he was Peruvian, and we couldn't get him a permit. They were all gone. So they are really strict, even though we thought because he was Peruvian we could get him a permit. And you imagine if it's difficult for locals to get permits, it's really difficult for us as visitors to get it. So yeah, something to think about, definitely. And for me as well, like looking at some, it's sort of best times to go. I know that, which is again another question. And guys, I know I'm chatting away here just about Machu Picchu, but any questions that you've got about Machu Picchu or any of the trips, do drop in. That goes to whether you're on Instagram, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're watching from YouTube. Great comments, by the way. But yeah, any questions you have does make it easier for me. But obviously I can chat for another 5-10 minutes, and then I'll have to chip off. But yeah, sorry. So the best time of year to go is another big one. And in terms of the best time of year, you've got April, kind of May does tend to get busier. That's kind of what we call the shoulder seasons. Summer is quite busy. Again, not crazy busy because of the reduction in permits, that kind of stuff. But it is busier because you've got obviously a lot of people on summer holidays, especially in the US. And the US, I would say, is get a lot of people there, which is great. But then obviously you get obviously people in Europe who are on summer holidays as well, especially in the UK. So then so summer is busy, and then you've got the kind of autumn. So I've been a couple of times in September, and actually it's a really good time to go. The only thing to watch out is that basically rainy season is kind of October to March. So obviously we don't run any trips to Machu Picchu during those months. And actually they close Machu Picchu always in February, but sometimes they also close it in March as well, because it's just too rainy, and they like to give it time to rest, if you like. Just for longevity and just for caring about the place itself, which is great. But yeah, so September though is a great time. But you just have to be aware that like sometimes that rainy season can sneak forward. There's no hard and fast rule. It's the same in Nepal, isn't it? Coming out of say rainy season in Nepal in July and August, sometimes that creeps into September and October, and you can get really bad weather. We've had that this year. You've seen on the news, you've probably seen on some of our trips that we've had some challenging conditions this year, but the guys have dealt with it fantastically. Yeah, we're very proud of our operations in Nepal, and certainly with how it's been managed this year. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. And I know the Evertrekkers have been flexible and definitely, you know, being a bit more. It's in any dynamic situation like that. You know, you just kind of roll with the punches, but they've been fantastic, which is good to see. But yeah, so the same in Peru as well. So September is a really, really good time to trek there, and definitely kind of safe as well, if you could call it that way. So yeah, that's kind of Machu Picchu, really, just talking about it. I know we've, you know, in terms of specifics, what I will do, guys, I'll grab off the cuff here. I'm going to grab the. Let's have a look. Should have typically been prepared. Let's have a look. I will chuck the Catch the Machu Picchu link in here, just so you've got it. Because if you can make it tonight, I will go into Machu Picchu in far more depth. This is on. I think this post's on YouTube and Facebook. So if you're on Instagram, go to jump onto YouTube or Facebook. You can grab the link because it doesn't automatically post for some reason. I can't add it in. So apologies on that. But yeah, if you do want to, so March, sorry, just picking up a question here. I think this is March_ADE. Apologies, always says usernames, not actual names. Do Evertrek run non-technical trips, 6,000 meter peaks? Yes, we do. So in Nepal, we do, and this is in Nepal, not Peru. So I hope you mean Nepal. But we do a few different peaks in Nepal. You've got Island Peak, Mera Peak. That we run group trips on. We've had plenty this autumn. We'll be doing more in the spring. So yes, definitely jump onto the website, have a little look. There's a lot of information there about those trips. So yeah, definitely have a look. Hope that answers your question. But yeah, I've dropped it in there. Catch the Machu Picchu. Hopefully that if anyone wants to learn more about Machu Picchu, if it's the right trip for them. And there are some kind of event only bonuses as well, so I highly recommend you jump on there. So I hope that helps. Well, guys, it was always going to be a short one today because it's just me, because I know normally no worries, Aid, yeah, normally me and Dave usually chatting about this kind of stuff. It's definitely different when you're on your own, but I hope I just wanted to kind of touch on Machu Picchu today because it is an amazing trip. Certainly very different. I think a lot of people who trek to Machu Picchu, they go there kind of almost not worrying or thinking about how difficult it is, but certainly, what is it? You come in. It's almost like you come in search of something, and actually what you find is very different. So I think people go there thinking it's all about Machu Picchu and it's amazing, but actually when you leave, you actually find that it's about all the little bits that go alongside it, and it's not the hard and difficult bits. For some people it is. But actually, it's about all the little bits that kind of add on the trip, especially if you go into places like the Amazon. I know some people who I chatted to, that was kind of it was mad after all the trekking and all the awesome bits. It was actually the journeys to the Amazon. They were like, that was actually their favorite bit, which is typical, isn't it? But hey, that's because it is, you know, visiting somewhere like the Amazon is not something you do every day. And it is a very, very special place to visit, having been there. And like I said, and I'll repeat what I said earlier, if you are booked on to go to Machu Picchu or you're thinking about Machu Picchu, get the Amazon on there. It's amazing. It's I think it's definitely a big miss if you don't do it. And look, I understand with time and cost, but if you can do it, it is amazing. And you can add it when you book in, just tick it on when you book in the Machu Picchu trip, or if you've already booked on, just give the team a call or drop in the live chat and we can easily add it on for you. Okay, great stuff, guys. Well, look, thanks for joining us. Some of the Evertrek legends have been on with me today and on Instagram as well. It's good to join in. Just a little short one, 30-35 minutes, but I wanted to join on today instead of missing it, and to give you a little, this is where I work at home these days. Although I will be in the office later for the live webinar, which we'll be doing. As I said, the link is in there. But good to see you all. CJ, Phil, Andrew, Jim, Bry, Mick. Good to see you guys. Ryan as well. Simon. Great to see you on here. I'll be back next week as well. Next week, I do want to have more of a focus on Everest. Next week is actually Black Friday. So there will be some fantastic kind of offers for November. which is great. So we'll be talking a bit more about that next week. But thanks for joining us, guys, and we'll see you again next week. All right, bye.